Have you heard of a little game called Immortality?
I have. It's a good old Sam Barlow gig. His newest one.
Yes, I've never played a Sam Barlow game, but Immortality popped up on my radar when good pal Noel, who I work with, recommended it. And then towards the end of last year, with all the game awards going out, this game popped up as a nominee in a bunch of categories for a number of things.
Yes.
So it's also on Game Pass, and I decided to give it a go. And this isn't a game, okay? It's more of an interactive experience. I mean, like, okay, it's got game elements, but for the most part, you're watching footage, okay? And the premise is, there's this actress, I'm blanking her name, it's Marissa LaSalle.
Okay.
And she's disappeared. We don't know what happened to her. And your goal is to try to figure out what happened to her by stitching together or just watching 3 films that she acted in. So in doing this, you watch actual footage from the films and you see some behind the scenes stuff. And you need to try to piece together like what happened to her. And now these films take place over several decades. So you'll notice if you're watching the video feed that some of the films are like modern day, it's crisp. The subtitles are, big and bold, whatever. But you'll see later that you go to some of the older movies and, the aspect ratio is a bit off. It looks a bit grainy because that's reflecting the technology of the time. But what makes this experience like super interesting is that at any point, any frame of footage, you can pause, click on an item, and it will take you to one of the 3 movies, a random scene that has that exact item or something similar. So like if you've been watching, you'll notice that earlier I paused on a pair of glasses, like sunglasses. I clicked on it. Now it's taken me to this other scene where she's holding a pair of sunglasses. So it becomes very interesting in trying to figure out, you start noticing themes or, consistencies across these different movies or in specific movies. So a good example is one of the earlier movies is set in like a monastery. So at one point you'll see a cross and go like, oh, like that's quite a prominent item. Let me just spend some time clicking on crosses, and you'll start getting footage specifically from this film, but with crosses in different scenes across it.
Okay.
It's a funny experience to recommend because you're watching footage and the first few hours are confusing because you don't know any of the characters' names. You're not watching anything like a chronological order. But the moment you start figuring out who people are, what the 3 movies are, what their premises are, it is like fascinating.
So it is 3 movies. You're jumping between these movies?
It's 3 movies that you're jumping between, yeah.
Okay.
It's fascinating because then you'll watch a scene and go, oh, this clearly takes place after that other scene I watched like an hour ago, for example. Then you'll click on an item and you'll be taken to either a completely different movie or another scene in this movie. Go, oh, okay. Now I know this person mentions this in this scene. They're clearly referencing something from another part of the movie, whatever. It's just, it's just such an interesting experience to play through because it is also open for interpretation because there are some twists and turns. Like there's a deeper layer of mystery to like what the hell is going on here? Like what happened to this actress? And piecing it together is just, it's like, it's unlike anything I've played in a long time. I couldn't put this game down. Like it's, you can roll credits. How the game dictates it, I don't know. I think there are some there are some parameters, like maybe it expects you to watch X number of scenes before it takes you to the final scene or whatever. But I've seen playtimes differ from anywhere from 5 hours to 10 hours.
Wow.
My playtime was about 9 hours, and I rolled credits, and I was like, "But I'm not done. I know there are scenes I haven't
there's still
watched.
Stuff you want to see." Yeah.
But I take my hats off to this team because not only this feature of clicking any item it's mind blowing. The fact that you can click any item and it will reference to somewhere else. There were a number of times.
And can you pause at any point and then click on any item?
Yeah. So you'll pause.
That's wild.
So
I'd love to know how they did that.
I think if you are watching the video footage here, I pause and I clicked on the hat. So you see that I click on the hat it takes me to another scene where the dude's wearing a hat. And you can do this
That's
in any
so cool.
frame in any of the movies. And I don't know how they did it. Like, the logistics behind this is wild. The fact that they had to, like, mark items and make everything clickable. Like, within reason, you can't really click a random piece of floor, but you can click anything. You can click hats, like I'll click the camera in the scene here, and it'll always just take you somewhere. It's so that part
I
of
assume
it,
there's like limited things you can click in a scene. Like not everything is
So, but
inspectable.
Anything that's prominent though, 100% you can click.
Okay.
Like even lights, you can click the lights. But so that side of the game is great, but another side is these actors and actresses. Like, the performances are insane. Like, really, really interesting films to watch, and just these people sell these performances. And what really makes it stand out though is you're watching them act like you're watching a scene from a movie, but then you'll often see like the director say cut, and you get to see them like drop character and sort of be themselves.
Oh, that's
and the way they
cool.
do that is just, it's insane. So I would recommend.
So do you eventually, you said you can roll credits. I mean, by that, do you mean you solve the underlying mystery of it?
You sort of get like an answer to some questions you might have.
Okay.
And again, like, it's open for interpretation. Like, you might go, this is what happened to her, or, oh, this is, something happened here or whatever. But that final scene is like sort of like the icing on the cake. You go like, oh, okay. But you still kind of want to watch the rest of the footage to be like, okay, I've missed some scenes. Let me just see if I can, add more context to what I think happened. Very good game.
Wow.
And again,
I do know that this is kind of like an evolution of Sambalo's like formula, because his previous two games, what were they? Her Story and Telling Lies, like use a similar format, but they're much more linear.
Yeah.
They're not, Her Story, which was kind of like his breakout, was kind of like a series of interviews with a woman in like an interrogation room, and you're trying to figure things out from there. You're not jumping between different complete formats of film and stuff. So this is quite a cool evolution of that.
It's very
I really
good.
wonder how they managed that. It seems like a big effort.
It seems like a big effort. And what's cool about this, though, is if you are looking to pick it up, so it is on Game Pass, so Xbox and PC, you can grab it there. But it's also on mobile. So if you've got an Android or iOS device, it's on both stores. I've checked. You can play it on your phone or tablet. Like, I think
seems like a good way to play it.
If I'd known, I would have definitely played, like, because I watch a lot of my series in bed on my tablet. I would have definitely played it there. But I only figured this out after I'd sat at my PC for like 9 to 10 hours.
Not a terrible thing.
No, not a terrible thing.
Would you say like, I mean, you used a mouse and keyboard obviously to navigate that. Would you say it would probably work well with a controller? Like, it would probably they'd probably just have like fake mouse with the joystick, you know what I mean?
Probably, but I listened to the spoiler cast on Kinda Funny, and I never thought about this, but there are, like, it's difficult to talk about this game because I don't want to spoil like what could be twists or unexpected things, but you on a keyboard and mouse, there's no vibrates. Okay. If you're holding a controller, the controller vibrates at certain points, which might allude to something. I was like, oh, okay. But on PC, there was an audio cue. That's how I knew something was happening. So it depends.
So they took that into account. Probably.
So a lot of people, they said like, oh, they played with controller. How the hell do you not, observe this thing without the vibrates? It's like, and I was like, oh, I know there was just like an audio cue that I picked up on that, indicated something. So I know that sounds very like obtuse, but for spoiler purposes, I can't tell you what I'm talking about. So on iPad, I presume you would just have the audio cue as well, just no vibrate. But you're right, on controller, I think it's a thing of you can scrub through footage by probably like, rotating the analog or using the shoulder buttons to like go forward or back frames, whatever. But I played on PC and it was great. So yeah.
Okay, nice.
Immortality.
I definitely want to give it a go. I know there are some strong opinions out there on. People seem to be either enamored with Sambalo or they don't find his method of storytelling or game design like that captivating or actually interesting. So I think it's a very interesting medium, and I'm kind of curious to give it a go. I do know he said his next game is going to be a more traditional. He's like, it will have graphics. That's what he said, which is interesting.
Well, with this game, it's something that could only work with this medium.
Yes.
Like, it's clearly film, but you could never nail this in like as a movie or as a series. It would never work.
It's like leaps and bounds ahead of what Netflix tried with
Kaleidoscope,
Bandersnatch. Or I haven't even tried. I've heard Kaleidoscope's like a non-linear, sort of storytelling.
It's interesting because I've heard mixed things about Kaleidoscope. People going like, "Oh no, like not good," or like, "Yeah, it was an interesting experience." And I was just thinking that premise of like Kaleidoscope, if you don't know, is a series that you can supposedly watch the show
in any
episodes
order.
in any order. But that's 4 episodes, whereas Immortality, you're getting served like dozens of different clips. You know,
it's also you're controlling when you jump between clips.
Yeah.
Like Bandersnatch was that Black Mirror experiment where they were like, oh, you at certain points you choose.
Oh, it's
you
like
make a choice for your character.
Game.
Yeah, it's like a choose your own adventure book. You know that it was very rudimentary. You know, it was like, oh, that's cool that I can do this, but like. This is on a completely different plane, I think.
Yeah. Immortality, though. I'm telling you, if you've got a tablet for those long load shedding hours,
are you gonna look at his other games now? Her Story and
I have thought about it. I think they're a lot shorter, which is quite nice. Like,
and from what I know, Her Story is much better than Telling Lies. So, yeah,
nice.
But give it a go. I don't know if you know, Sam Barlow worked on a bunch of Silent Hill games before going out on his own.
I did not know that.
He was a writer on Silent Hill Shattered Memories or something like that. So I don't know, maybe he'll make horror next again. But
that's interesting because there are moments in Immortality where it straddles this line of like, I was playing and there were moments I was like, is this a horror game?
That's where he comes from.
That makes so much sense.
He was lead designer and writer on Silent Hill Origins and Silent Hill Shattered Memories.
Okay, that makes so much sense because again, with no spoilers, there are moments in Immortality that are just so jarring where I was like, is this meant to be a horror game? Like, it made me feel so uncomfortable. I'm like, oh my God, I want to put this off and go to bed. It's so dark. But I would recommend. So it's an unusual, again, like quote unquote game, but if you can get through the first hour or two and start figuring out who's who, it's almost addictive, just clicking through items to see like, what will it take me to next? You know, what scene will I get served next? Very cool.
I'm keen to give it a go. Really.
Very cool.